The galaxy didn't expect humans to laugh at their greatest war display, but the first hint of trouble began the moment Captain Aiden Cross leaned back in his chair, raised an eyebrow at the colossal alien dreadnought on the view screen, and casually asked, "Is that supposed to impress us?" His bridge crew didn't answer, because most of them were choking on suppressed laughter. The ship looming before them belonged to the Fourth Dominion, a species known for treating intimidation as an art form. Their vessels were infamous across the stars, towering, spike-covered monstrosities designed to broadcast one message: fear. They projected holograms of screaming victims across their hulls. They played deep, bone-rattling roars on wideband frequencies. Their shields shimmered with crimson energy meant to evoke blood. Entire star systems surrendered at the mere sight of them. But to humans of the 34th Fleet, it looked like someone had stapled knives to a refrigerator and called it a warship. Ensign Mira Solari clamped a hand over her mouth, shoulders trembling. "See, Captain, please." "I can't, it looks like a kitchen appliance on steroids." Aiden smirked. "Be polite. It's their flagship. They probably think it's terrifying." Across the bridge, Lieutenant Jax Roan squinted at the glowing red shield haze. "Honestly, sir, it reminds me of those old Earth Halloween decorations. The cheap ones." That did it. The bridge erupted into open laughter, echoing off steel panels, clashing violently with the horrifying theatrics unfolding on the screen. The dreadnought activated its intimidation sequence. The screaming holograms appeared. The roars thundered across subspace. Blood-like energy flowed in violent patterns along the hull. Every other species who had ever seen this display had trembled. Humans leaned forward, fascinated, for all the wrong reasons. "Is that?" Mira gasped between laughs. "A hologram of a snail? Why is it screaming? Why would a snail scream?" "Maybe they think all Earth animals sound like that," Jax said. "Their intel is terrible." Aiden cleared his throat, straightened, and put on his best, serious captain face, though the amused gleam in his eyes betrayed him. Okay, everyone get it together. They're doing their best. Let's at least pretend we're intimidated." Nobody could. The situation became even funnier when the Dominion commander finally appeared, projected in a hologram across their bridge. He was massive, armored, and snarled viciously, clearly expecting silence, maybe a few humans fainting. Instead, he was greeted by the sound of Mira wiping tears from her face. Sorry, carry on," she wheezed, waving for him to continue. The Fourth Commander blinked. He wasn't accustomed to being told to carry on. He tried again. "Humans! You stand before the most fearsome warship ever forged in the cosmos. Behold your doom!" Aiden leaned forward sympathetically. "That's adorable. Really? You practiced that, didn't you?" A visible twitch ran through the alien's face. "No! It is terrifying. You should be cowering, trembling, wetting yourselves. Something." "Sir," Jax whispered to Aiden, "don't break him. He looks like he's about to cry." Aiden ignored him. "We appreciate the effort. Truly. But we've seen worse. Have you seen rush hour traffic on Old Manhattan? Now that's terrifying." More laughter. The Fourth Commander slammed a fist into his chest. "You dare laugh at the Dominion? Our ancestors conquered 50 civilizations." Aiden shrugged. "Cool. Humans conquered Mondays. And taxes," Mira added. "Yeah, taxes," Jax said with a shiver. "Horrifying." Another wave of laughter rippled. The alien commander's voice faltered. For the first time in his career, he was unsure. His species had perfected fear-based diplomacy for thousands of years, but humans were reacting like they'd just been shown a comedy sketch. The holograms of screaming animals didn't help. Finally, Aiden stood, posture firm, tone shifting from teasing to commanding. "We're not here for fear games. We're here because you breached human territory, threatened a colony, and demanded our surrender. That's not happening." The Fourth Commander snarled, regaining some of his bluster. "Then prepare for annihilation, human." Aiden smirked. We already are. He cut the channel. The hologram vanished, though the echoes of laughter lingered. When silence finally fell, the atmosphere shifted. The humor wasn't gone, but purpose now filled the air. Status of our ships? Aiden asked. All 20 frigates holding position, Jax reported. Cruisers ready for defensive posture. The Artemis stands ready. The Artemis, Aiden's ship, wasn't the largest vessel in the fleet, but it was the one with the smartest crew, the strangest reputation, and the most unpredictable human captain. Humor had its place, but so did fearlessness. Aiden watched the dreadnought drifting ahead, its crimson glow pulsing like an angry heartbeat. A ship designed to crush spirits. He smiled. We tried being diplomatic, he said softly. They gave us intimidation. Let's show them what humans give back. Mira raised an eyebrow. Which is? Aiden clasped his hands behind him and grinned. A reason to regret thinking fear works on us. And with that, the stage was set, an alien empire built on terror, and a human fleet that found the whole thing funny. The Fourth Dominion had flexed its power. Humanity had answered with laughter. But the battle was only beginning. The Fourth Dominion wasn't used to being ignored, certainly not on a battlefield. Yet minutes after their intimidation display ended, the human fleet still hadn't assumed the posture expected of a scared opponent. Instead of scattering, begging, or transmitting surrender codes, they remained in tight formation, doing absolutely nothing except existing in a calm, unbothered line of steel. It rattled the Dominion. On the bridge of the fourth dreadnought Crothall, Commander Zarek paced in agitated circles. He replayed the human laughter in his mind, each chuckle a dagger to his pride. His officers stood stiffly at their consoles, pretending they didn't hear the occasional frustrated snarl. Why did they laugh? Zarek muttered, claws clicking on the deck. Do they not understand? Do they not feel fear? His weapons officer cleared her throat. Commander, humans have unusual psychological profiles. Their species appears to detect threats differently. Differently? Zarek growled. They laughed at the scream sequence. The scream sequence terrifies the Vornak, and those creatures are literally born inside acid pools. Another officer whispered. Maybe we should update the sequence. Zarek froze. Update it? Update centuries of Dominion heritage? The bridge fell silent. Zarek slammed a fist on the holotable. No. We will crush them. Prepare plasma cannons. Meanwhile, aboard the Artemis, Captain Aiden Cross was dealing with his own form of escalation, his crew's creativity. You want to do what? He asked, staring at Mira, who looked far too enthusiastic for the current situation. It's simple, Mira said, projecting a diagram. If they rely on intimidation, then let's ruin the mood. We deploy a synchronized volley of decoy drones shaped like ducks. Aiden blinked. Ducks. Bright yellow ones. Giant. Inflatable looking. Jax chimed in from behind his console. It'll screw with their sensors and confuse their targeting systems. And also, huge comedic value. Aiden rubbed his temples. So your strategic solution to an alien empire is rubber ducks. Space ducks, Mira corrected. My apologies, Aiden deadpanned. Space ducks. The rest of the bridge waited for his answer. Despite the absurdity, the logic wasn't terrible. Human fleets were notoriously unconventional. Unpredictable tactics were tradition. Fine, Aiden said, giving in. Deploy the ducks. Within minutes, 20 bright yellow drone ducks puffed into existence from the Artemis's launch bay, their ridiculous shapes drifting majestically into strategic positions. Each one carried signal jammers, reflective plating, and micro-thrusters. Back on the fourth dreadnought, chaos erupted. Commander! An officer yelped. Unknown objects detected! Zarek spun. What kind of objects? The sensors zoomed in. Silence fell. Commander? The officer whispered. They appear to be gelatinous-looking, floating animals. Another added, voice shaking. They seem to be smiling at us. Zarek stared, jaws parting in disbelief as 20 giant yellow ducks wobbled across the void, blocking every intimidation hologram being projected. "What are those?" he whispered. Around him, Vorth officers trembled, not in fear, but confusion. The Dominion had prepared for 100 forms of psychological warfare, but no manual, no ancient text, no tactical doctrine mentioned yellow ducks. "Is this some kind of human ritual?" a lieutenant asked. "Is it a battle formation?" another said. "Is it a weapon?" Zarek roared. "Fools! It must be psychological warfare. They mock us." He pointed at the screen dramatically. "Destroy the creatures." On command, the plasma cannons fired. And that's when things truly escalated. Because the ducks didn't explode. They split. Each one fragmented into 30 microdrones, creating a chaotic cloud of sensors, reflections, and interference. The Vorth targeting array instantly overloaded, alarms blaring as the hologram projectors shorted out. The scream sequence died mid-roar, replaced with static. The crimson intimidation lights flickered. Worst of all, the enormous hologram of the snail got stuck, frozen mid-scream on the hull for all to see. Aiden burst into laughter when the image appeared on the Artemis's display. Oh, that's beautiful," he gasped. "Look at their flagship. The mighty Dominion dreadnought, decorated with a screaming snail." Mira snorted. "We are keeping that screenshot." Jax wiped tears from his eyes. "This is the greatest battle in military history." But the fun didn't last. Because after the humiliation came the rage. The Vorth dreadnought powered its main weapon, the solar lance, a superheated beam capable of slicing through a cruiser in one shot. Aiden's humor faded. "They're charging something big. Bigger than ducks," Jax muttered. Aiden straightened, voice sharpening. "All ships, evasive formation Delta. And prepare countermeasures." The screens dimmed as the Dominion weapon gathered energy. The laughter was gone now. Human creativity had poked the beast. Now the beast intended to bite back. The Vorth Dominion had underestimated humanity. Now they were about to learn the second half of the lesson. Humans may laugh first. But they fight last, and hardest. The first flash of the Vorth Dominion solar lance was so bright it momentarily turned the void white. Even the Artemis's tinted viewports dimmed automatically as the colossal beam carved a molten line through space, directly toward the human fleet. Aiden didn't shout. He didn't panic. He simply lifted a hand and said, "Brace." The beam struck. The shockwave slammed into the Artemis like a tidal wave of fire, rattling the ship's bones. Panels flickered, alarms chirped, and the deck shuddered violently beneath their feet. But the Artemis held. Mira spat sparks from her console. "Shields down to 30%. Internal damage?" Aiden asked. "Minor. The ducks took most of the interference load, thank God." Aiden almost smiled. "Space ducks saving lives. I'll have that written into the history books." But the Dominion wasn't done. The solar lance charged again. This time, the beam tracked, slowly, deliberately, preparing to slice the Artemis clean in half. Jax's voice tightened. "Captain, if that thing fires again, we lose half the fleet." Aiden watched the charging energy build, crackling across the dreadnought's forward spines. The Dominion wasn't intimidating anymore. They were furious, humiliated, dangerous. And yet, Aiden felt strangely calm. "Jax," he said quietly, "how fast can you push the Artemis without tearing her apart?" Jax blinked. "Fast enough to do something stupid." "What are you planning?" Aiden pointed at the hologram of the solar lance coils. "I want to get close." Mara whipped her head around. "Close? Captain, that thing is a star killer." "Exactly," Aiden said. "And weapons that powerful tend to have one flaw: overload." Jax's eyebrows shot up. "You're suggesting we shove something down their barrel?" "Not something," Aiden said. "Everything." Silence. Then Mira grinned slowly. "Captain, I like where this is going." The plan formed in seconds, Reckless, absurd, dangerously human. The Artemis would accelerate straight at the dreadnought, shedding decoy drones, sensor disruptors, and pulse mines, forcing the solar lance to compensate for 1,000 fake signatures at once. The Dominion would either shut down the lance to avoid overload, or fire it, triggering catastrophic backflow. Aiden hoped they shut it down. But he knew the Dominion far too well to count on their restraint. "Jax," Aiden said, "push her." The engines roared to life, hurling the Artemis forward with a violent lurch. Shimmering mines trailed behind like a comet's tail, scattering across the gap between fleets. Drones ignited, scattering sensors in all directions. On the dreadnought, panic erupted. "Commander! They are flying directly toward the lance!" Zarek's eyes widened. "Why? Why would they fly toward certain death? They are deploying everything." Zarek stared as a cloud of glowing orbs, duck debris, and signal disruptors swarmed toward the lance coils. "They're trying to overload the weapon!" a sensor officer shouted. Zarek bared his teeth. "Impossible. The lance is flawless. Commander, its thermal signature is rising. Hold it steady." The Dominion crew hesitated, but centuries of doctrine screamed in their ears, "Never retreat from inferior species." Zarek lifted a claw. "Fire the solar lance." Across the void, Aiden watched the coils swell with power, lightning dancing along their length. The heat readings spiked. Cracks formed in the energy housing. Jax's hands flew over controls. "They're firing in 3 seconds. Then get us past the firing arc," Aiden ordered. The Artemis surged left just as the lance reached critical charge. Aiden whispered, "They're going to do it. They're actually going to fire." Mira muttered, "Then let's hope their stupidity is our survival." The dreadnought unleashed the beam. It tore through the space where the Artemis had been only moments before, but the path of the beam intersected directly with the mine cloud and drone swarm. The overload was instant. A ripple of unstable energy surged backward into the weapon coils, overloading the capacitors. Red warning lights flared across the Dominion flagship as the lance collapsed in on itself. Then, the explosion wasn't loud. It was impossibly bright, like a silent supernova blooming from within the dreadnought's bow. The shockwave folded its forward hull like paper, flames erupting from vent ports, molten plating scattering into orbit. Aiden shielded his eyes as the shockwave washed over the Artemis. Jax whispered, "Holy, Captain, we just popped their main cannon." Mira laughed breathlessly. "We weaponized ducks. Ducks broke their superweapon." The explosion ripped half the Vorth formation apart, stunning the remaining ships. Their intimidation tactics, their heritage, their pride shattered. But something worse followed. The Dominion dreadnought, crippled but furious, rerouted all remaining power to boarding claws, a last-ditch measure used only when honor was at stake. Zarek appeared on comms, snarling through a cracked hologram, half his bridge aflame behind him. "Human! You have disgraced us! We will tear your ship apart with our own claws!" Aiden sighed. "I was really hoping they'd give up after the explosion." Mira grabbed her sidearm. "Captain, they're coming!" Aiden nodded. The Dominion hadn't learned their lesson yet. Now the battle was going to get close, too close. And he had one last trick ready for exactly that moment. The Dominion's boarding claws extended like mechanical snakes, hissing and snapping toward the Artemis. Every crew member on the bridge braced, knowing that if the claws latched, chaos and slaughter would follow. Yet Captain Aiden Cross remained calm, a smile tugging at the corners of his mouth. "Remember," he said quietly, "they're proud. They have an ego larger than their ships. Pride is predictable. Let's use it." Myra's eyes narrowed. "You mean they're going to try to board, and we'll make them regret it?" "Exactly," Aiden replied. "But we won't just fight them, they'll fight themselves." Jax snorted. "You always make it sound so casual." Aiden ignored him. "Deploy the final payload." From beneath the Artemis, small hatches opened, releasing hundreds of microdrones, each shaped vaguely like a human figure waving a flag. They were programmed to intercept, confuse, and disrupt. Their targets, the Dominion boarding claws. Their effect, total mayhem. Across the void, the Dominion officers watched in horror. Their mechanical arms twisted and flailed uncontrollably as tiny drones latched onto every joint, overloaded circuits, and jammed movement systems. Crew aboard the dreadnought shrieked, literally, in a way only aliens could, and Zarek's furious snarls were drowned out by the chorus of malfunctions. Aiden leaned back in his chair. They're getting the message. But the Dominion refused to surrender. Zarek, face twisted with rage, activated the emergency teleport sequence. Board them! Crush them! Show them the Dominion does not submit! The Artemis shuddered as multiple energy beams locked onto the boarding shafts. Mira groaned. Here we go, close quarters combat incoming! Aiden smirked. No. Watch and learn. He tapped a sequence into the Artemis's console, and with a low hum, the ship initiated a gravitational field fluctuation. The floor beneath the approaching Dominion soldiers tilted, then dropped. Beams meant to track human positions became useless. The aliens tumbled uncontrollably through artificial gravity distortions, bouncing off walls and each other, their coordinated assault instantly devolving into a chaotic ballet of defeat. Jax laughed so hard he nearly fell out of his chair. I can't, look at them! They're literally flailing in zero-G. Mira was barely holding herself together. It's beautiful. Pure chaos. The Dominion flagship, still reeling from the earlier Solar Lance meltdown, tried to stabilize its systems to provide backup. But every effort only fed into human tactics. Signal jammers scrambled targeting protocols. Decoy drones obstructed sensors. Even the massive, fearsome holograms projected from the dreadnought's hull became completely irrelevant as humans ignored them entirely. Zarek bellowed through comms, face beet red, claws twitching. You are insane! No species survives this level of chaos! Aiden leaned forward, voice steady. We thrive on it. The Dominion soldiers, disoriented and demoralized, began arguing among themselves. One group accidentally activated another set of defenses on their own ship, causing chain reactions that set off alarms, secondary fires, and even minor explosions. Panic spread faster than any human volley could ever have done. Then Aiden gave the final order. Cut the comms and initiate full retreat protocol. Mira froze. We're letting them go? Of course, Aiden said. They've already lost. All we need now is to walk away and let them reflect. The Artemis surged forward, weaving through the debris of malfunctioning dreadnoughts, past flailing boarding claws, leaving the Dominion fleet in utter disarray. Every human ship in formation followed suit, moving with effortless precision, perfectly timed maneuvers that left even veteran Dominion captains speechless. For hours, the Dominion fleet tried to regroup, but human unpredictability kept them off balance. Holographic decoys, sensor-disrupting drones, and unconventional maneuvers made every attack futile. By the time night, or what passed for night in space, fell across their bridge consoles, Zarek had no choice but to withdraw, leaving the Artemis and the human fleet victorious without firing a single destructive volley on a massive scale. Back on the Artemis, the crew erupted into restrained applause and laughter. Jax wiped tears from his eyes. We actually did it, without killing half their fleet. Mira shook her head, still giggling. I don't think I'll ever see an enemy react that way again. Ducks, gravity fields, microdrones. I mean, really? Aiden smiled, gazing out at the galaxy beyond the viewport. They underestimated humans. Again. They thought fear and intimidation were enough. But humans fight differently. We improvise. We laugh in the face of danger. And sometimes that's the deadliest weapon of all. Mira nodded, a hint of awe in her voice. So, we really didn't even use our best weapons? Nope, Aiden said with a grin. Not even close. For the first time in decades, humanity's reputation in the galaxy began to shift. Not as the species that built the largest fleets or the deadliest weapons, but as the species no one could predict, no one could intimidate, and no one could easily defeat. Zarek's fleet limped away, humiliated but alive, forced to rethink their assumptions. Humanity had laughed at power, danced with danger, and survived chaos unscathed. On the Artemis, the crew leaned back, exhaustion mingling with triumph. Laughter echoed through the corridors once more, but this time it carried pride, relief, and the quiet joy of being undeniably, unapologetically human. Aiden looked at his crew. "Remember this day," he said softly. "The day the galaxy learned that humans are not intimidated. The day we reminded them, laughter can be louder than lasers." And with that, the Artemis and her fleet set course for home, leaving a galaxy wide-eyed, shaken, and above all, respectful of the species that had once again rewritten the rules of war. Humanity had answered intimidation with laughter, and it was the deadliest response of all.